You're listening to The Higher Ed Marketer, the podcast for marketing professionals in higher education. Join us every week as we talk to the industry's greatest minds in student recruitment, donor relations, marketing trends, new technologies, and much more. If you're looking for conversations centered around where marketing in higher ed is going, this podcast is for you. Let's get into the show.
Everyone, welcome to another episode of the Higher Ed Marketer podcast. I am grateful to come to you again. Troy Singer here with my friend Bart Kaler. And Bart, at the beginning of the year, we're having some excellent guests, including today's guest, Vince Slomsky. And let me tell you a little bit about him. Assistant Vice President of Marketing and Brand at the University of Florida. Vince is a seasoned higher education marketing leader with more than 15 years of experience in storytelling, strategic communications, and digital marketing. Before joining USF, Vince held leadership roles at Penn State University, Kent State University, where he led integrated marketing efforts designed to drive enrollment growth, strengthen brand messaging, and build meaningful connections with prospective students and families.
Yeah, this was such a great episode, Troy. I really liked it. I think Vince, as we'll learn, came from a television broadcast background. He was a television journalist. And so I think he brings a couple interesting things because he got the higher ed edge, but he also came in from how to really capture stories. You know, that's what you have to do when you're a television broadcaster. And so I think he did a really good job, and he continues to kind of shape his marketing philosophy with those backgrounds. And I think the fact that he can lead all the marketing and brand initiatives aimed at increasing their national visibility and kind of strengthening their brand there at USF is really a tremendous thing of them trying to achieve that goal of becoming a top 25 institution, which I'm really excited to have him on the show today. So.
You are very accurate, but in addition, I think both of you do an excellent job of making a case for both storytelling first marketing and video first marketing. Yeah. And here is our conversation with Vince Slomsky. Vince, I am so glad we finally have this conversation for the public. I've been following you for years and really have wanted to have you on this show for so long. So thank you for joining us.
Troy, I'm honored. I appreciate the kind words there. I've been following you as well. I've been following Bart. So glad to finally have this chance to talk to you guys too. This is going to be fun.
Wonderful. So hopefully, since you have followed us, this first question is not a surprise because we start every one of our conversations out with this question to our guests, and it's giving you an opportunity to share something either interesting or surprising that you may have recently learned that you feel our audience might find meaningful or fun.
I have two here. I'm going to have a funny one for you guys. It's not funny. It's actually factual. And then I'll have an industry one too. The first one. So my wife and I have 3 young kiddos, and we read books to them every single night. And my 5-year-old, our oldest, is really into learning about sea creatures right now. And so when you ask that question of me, the first thing that comes to mind, because I think I just read him this last night, is that the blue whale is the largest creature on Earth, and that is a sea creature. So I didn't know that, and now I do. the answer that I'll give you from an industry standpoint that I just learned, this I'm sure differs for everybody, but in our current campaign that we're doing here at the university, at my current university, we're doing YouTube ads right now, which we've done for a while. But I was digging into the analytics just a couple days ago, and I found it so impressive that actually more than 90% of our views on YouTube are coming from people's TV screens. So not YouTube TV ads, actual YouTube native ads. We're up over 90% of our views coming from that ad are coming from TV screens. So just thought that was really interesting. We're really rocking our YouTube ads right now, doing really well with those. And I just thought it was so cool that actually more than 90% of the views are coming from somebody's actual TV and not their phones or their tablets or their laptop.
Yeah, that's interesting. A lot of those channels now, the apps on the TV, the streaming apps. I mean, YouTube is one of the most popular ones. So that's great.
Perfect lead-in, Vince, to some of the topics that we want to talk to you about this afternoon, whether it's storytelling or video first as we go into marketing. You are a higher ed marketer, but you first started out, and I believe maybe even went to school for broadcast journalism. So eager to know how that shift happened from journalism to higher ed marketing.
Yeah, it's a pretty unique story, I guess. It's always funny to me to learn about how people progress in their career, right? So going from a TV news reporter and anchor now to working in higher ed marketing for 13 years now. But you're right, Troy. I started, I went to Kent State University, majored in broadcast journalism, and then spent 4 years in the business as soon as I graduated. So I worked for TV stations in Lansing, Michigan, Syracuse, New York, and Erie, Pennsylvania. As a reporter and eventually working up to anchor as well. But what was unique about the time that I graduated, it was 2008. And so that's when, we had the Great Recession or whatever they want to call it, right? And so jobs were really tough to come by and everybody was laying people off. So when I graduated, a news reporter fresh out of school was also a cameraman. And so they called us a one-man band journalist. And so this is where I developed my skill set with video as well, because not only was I in front of the camera, I was also behind the camera recording the interviews and recording the B-roll, and really fell in love with shooting and editing video as well. But it's just so funny. And I think that's industry standard now. I think most TV stations are out there and their reporters are also their videographers too. I think you're hard pressed to find cameramen anymore because the journalists themselves are shooting and editing the videos too. But I spent 4 years in TV news, and when you're in TV news, you kind of work off of these 1 or 2 year contracts, and the idea is to keep advancing up into larger and larger markets. And so I was coming up to the end of my 2 years at Erie, Pennsylvania, and I saw this job posting at Kent State University at my alma mater. And it was Assistant Director of New Media Communications. And I said, let me take a look at that, So the title was really not super indicative of what that means, but what they were looking for is somebody who could come in and really manage social media for the Alumni Association at Kent State, and then also tell stories primarily through video format. And so it was pretty, I think, groundbreaking at the time. This was 2012. I don't think a lot of universities yet had really invested much into full-time social media staff. And so I said, I'll give it a shot, right? I'll see what happens here. I was getting a little homesick. I was kind of getting tired of moving around to these different cities, and I would have, loved to be back close to family. So I threw my name in the hat, and one thing turned into another, and I got the offer. I think what they really, I think what maybe made me stand out was because of my journalism background and my storytelling abilities. I had some social media experience because as a TV news reporter, you also manage your own social media. It's really important, that you're publishing your stories on your social channels. So I had that, but I think I stood out because of being able to shoot and edit videos and tell stories through that format. So I got the job. I excitedly moved back to Ohio, and at the time it was like, how cool is it that I now get to work for my alma mater, this place that I loved, being a part of for 4 years, and now I get to be an employee here and tell all the great stories of all the other alumni out there through social media and through video efforts. So it was just a fantastic match, and didn't turn back. I've been in higher ed marketing now for 13 years.
That's pretty incredible. And I think the point, you said that there weren't a lot of people doing social media back then. I don't think there were a lot of people doing video back then either. I mean, if you think about it, that's 14 years ago. Broadband was just then getting some traction, and so I think that's a really good point too. That you were able to kind of bring that video to that as well. So I know one of the things that we talked about in our pre-interview was just this idea of people-first storytelling, and I'm sure that comes out of a little bit of a combination of your broadcast background and what you've learned over the years in higher ed. So what does that actually look like for a university marketing team if they wanted to focus on this people-first storytelling rather than just storytelling, which everybody talks about?
Yeah, I'm such a huge proponent and believer in people-first storytelling. So what that means to me is our heroes are our people, right? Our heroes are our students, our faculty, staff, and alumni. They're the ones who live the experience every day, not us. So we're the marketers. We're the ones who have the honor of telling those stories, but we're not the ones who are sitting at the desks in the classroom or standing in front of the classroom, or the alumni who are out doing amazing things in their careers, or the prospective students, even the faculty, staff. The people who are living the experience every single day are the people who can tell our stories for us. So there's two ways I think to think of this, right? We can continue to do a lot of the higher ed speak and tout our rankings and our facts and figures and kind of fit into that sea of sameness that I feel like a lot of universities fit into, or we can start to stand out by focusing on our people. And so again, this may come back to my journalism background, but in TV news, you rely on storytelling through people. You go out, you interview people, you find out the facts, and you go back to the news station and you report it. So I've taken that same mindset in everything that I've done in higher ed marketing. If we have a priority, if we have a pillar, if you will, of a campaign, rather than us as the institution saying, we're great, we're a top 10 public, we're a top 50 public, we have X amount of dollars in research funding, right? We can do that all day long. That's easy. But where it really hits home is when we have our people say that for us. So, for example, launched a campaign here at my current institution recently. And rather than focusing on, the fact that we're a top 50 public university and we're great, right? We can say we're great all day long. It's so much more impactful to hear our students, faculty, staff, and alumni say that. And so we kind of flipped everything on its head recently. And we basically said, here's what we want to talk to you about. You say it in your own words, right? Nothing was scripted. And so we sat down with 9 different people in this campaign. We talked to them about our AI college. We talked to them about the amazing things happening at my current university, our rise in the rankings, right? But we had it for us so that we're not out there just producing graphics and putting billboards and commercials out there. Right. That say it from the institution level. Our people are now saying that for us, and that is so much more meaningful than it is to have the institution, kind of tapping itself on the back and giving ourselves prop. Our people are doing that for us.
That's cool. And I can just hear some of the people that are listening to this, because I know a lot of the people that are listening to this, they're like, that's great, Vince, you're at a big school. I'm sure it's easy just to walk out there and point your camera and grab somebody. But how do people actually uncover those stories? I mean, obviously there's resources all across campus. There's stories all out there. How do we find those and really be able to get access to those stories?
I'm going to give you a really simple answer, and I've literally said this to staff in the past. My philosophy is we have to get out of our chairs, right? I think so often, thank you. I think so often we find ourselves just sitting behind this computer all day long, and we're typing in spreadsheets and we're working in our project management systems and all of this. But we are communicators. How can we communicate? How can we do our job without getting out of our chairs and going and talking to our partners and going and finding these stories? I think building relationships, talking to the folks who work in our colleges, in our classrooms, making those connections and just saying, hey, tell me something great that's happening in your college, or tell me something that awesome that happened to you guys recently. Tell me about your best students, or the students who are out there just, kicking butt in their internships or what have you. Like, we can't do our jobs as marketing and communications professionals by sitting behind our computer all day. We've got to get out of our chairs and we've got to go and talk to these people and make those connections, because that's the only way that we're going to find these stories.
Yeah, I like that. And I mean, that takes work. It takes effort. It takes a discipline, because I think sometimes, some of us are a little bit more shy. We might not like to go out and talk to people and ask them questions and be in front of them. But I think that when you get somebody and you have a relationship with even a student that you're talking to, and you can create that relationship, that's going to give you a lot of opportunities. And I think that's one of the other important things. I know we're all about, a lot of people like, flex, remote work, all that. There is something to be said about being in a location where if you're responsible for gathering stories, it's kind of hard to do that at home whenever all the stories are on campus. And so again, that's me. That's old man Kaler getting up on his soapbox and talking. But
you're right.
I think that's so true. And as I think about this too, I mean, when you think about the students, the faculty, the alumni, helping them kind of build those stronger institutional brands through the storytelling, how do you kind of pull that through? Because I mean, certainly as a journalist, as a marketer, as a storyteller, there's some responsibility for you to help guide that ship. I mean, just being able to put a microphone in front of somebody and just say, go, you actually have to be able to, to navigate that. So how do you do that when you're trying to engage these people to be able to get the best stories out of them?
It's a fantastic question. And I hate to say it this way, but I think, some folks, there's a lot of great stories out there, right? But if the story isn't a priority area for the university, right? Sometimes it falls by the wayside, right? So I think there's a level of that. There's a level in understanding like what is a good story at this current time, because you're right, Bart. I mean, we deal with it all the time, right? Our faculty are doing amazing things, but a lot of the times, they want stories about the awards that they've won. Well, there's a lot of awards that are being won out there, right? So sometimes we have to draw the line and say, your story is great. Congratulations. It's fantastic, but it just doesn't rise to the level of exactly what we're looking for right now, because maybe it doesn't fit into a priority area that's being set by the president's office, or maybe it's not, something that we feel is something that we want to talk about at this current time, given the political climate or what have you. There's all these different, variables that really make up what we focus on. But also to your point too, like some folks aren't comfortable in front of a camera, or some folks, just don't really have like that natural storytelling ability. And so I think it's up to us to help guide those people through those situations. And so what we learn in the journalism world, I think, is really applicable. Oftentimes we go into a story and we know exactly what we're looking for, but until the person says it in the way that makes sense or what we're looking for, sometimes we continue to ask the question and we continue to rephrase it in a way. And so I think that that's part of this. But just knowing marketing and communications, we should be the ones who are helping to guide folks along the way. Sometimes students might not be super polished, and that's okay, but let's work with them and let's help them say it in a way that will make sense to the end user. Same thing with faculty, same thing with staff and alumni. That's our jobs, to be able to guide people through that. But also what I'll say, since right now I'm sitting in our central marketing and communications team at the University of South Florida, really awesome job. This is my first time being able to sit kind of at the central level. We know what the university is looking for, because we're so in touch with leadership, and we know what those priorities are. And so we know the types of stories that we're looking for, and it's up to us now to help guide our communicators around the entire institution in how to tell that story as well. So right now, working on a Power Facts project. Think of it as more of kind of like a messaging pillars, right? As you're out there telling your stories, make sure that you're hitting these key points. Repetition is key in branding, and so making sure that we're all speaking that same language, helping to guide our peers in that storytelling goes such a long way. And if we're not doing that, then I don't feel like we're doing our jobs properly.
Yeah, totally agree.
Vince, you also often talk about the importance of video-first marketing. So we'd like for you to share, why do you believe that videos become such an important format for higher ed marketing teams today?
I could probably give you like 30 different answers here. The first answer that I'll say is, I mean, all the data out there today proves that video is king, and it continues to be king. Now, the type of video continues to shift. It was a little bit more long form years ago, and now it's more short form. But some of the data suggests that 80% of consumers are appreciating videos more than they are written content before they make a buying decision. And I'm sure that those numbers keep going up. There's just so much data out there that proves that video is really king and continues to be king. YouTube, we know, has now been the second largest search engine for years. Billions and billions of users are watching YouTube videos every single day. It's the second most popular social media platform. And so that in and of itself should tell us, I'm a big believer in making data-driven decisions. That data right there tells you to make sure that you're prioritizing video, right? But what I'll say here, and this is probably going to be more process-driven for me, and this is how my brain works. If you start with a video first, then you now have everything you need for all of your other multi-channel assets. So if you go out and you interview a student, faculty, staff, alum, you now have what you need for a written story, because you can pull those quotes and you can write them down in written form. You can pull the audio for audio formats, whether it's a podcast, whether it's an audio ad. And then of course you have your video, right? And so for me, it's process driven. If you start with a video, you're starting up here and you're now filtering out all of your multi-channel content just from that one singular video. A good example here in the brand campaign that we're running right now, we took 2 days and we blocked them off on our calendars and we interviewed 9 different people. Those 2 days of video content has given us enough to spread this out throughout this entire year. So we not only got our TV commercial from that, we got an extended cut from it. We're working on 4 feature videos that will drop each quarter of this year. And then within those quarters, we're also pulling out 15-second cuts of those feature videos that will drip out throughout the weeks and months throughout the year. That was based on a 2-day video shoot. We just pumped our funnel full of video content that we can now pump out throughout the entire year. That also helped us write, we're up to 12 different written web stories now. We have audio ads. We have photography that went along with that. So that's how my brain works, that if you start with a video, you're now arming yourself with all the multi-channel content that you need to fill all those other channels.
Yeah. I love your approach on that, Vince. I think that's really, really good, because I agree. You get something started, you get that video started, and I'm a big believer in recycling and syndicating the content that you have. You can turn it into a billion different things. I mean, you didn't even go past, a written format. Now you can turn it into an ebook. Now you can turn it into a blog. Now you can do all kinds of things with that. And so you've got to really start with that video first. Now, we also have a lot of people listening on this, and they're like, oh yeah, Vince is at University of South Florida. I'm sure he's got everything he needs. And my argument is that there's a lot of different ways to go into video without feeling like you've got to have a full production crew and you got to hire the local TV station. And I hear that so much. Unpack that for me, because I've got my own thoughts.
Oh my gosh, man. I hear it too. And I think that there's still this misconception that when you do video, you have to hire an agency and pay $40,000, and they have to come in with their red cinema cameras and 4K quality, this and that, blah blah blah. In today's day and age, we all literally have the tool that it takes. Right there we go. But here's the coolest thing about it. We don't even have to do this. Our students can go do it for us, and they're better at it than we are.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's really time to get past this whole, misconception that video has to be this super polished, expensive product, because we all have the tool to do it in our pocket, and we all have the people to do it at our campus every single day, and they do it better than we do. Our students are so good at this storytelling through this, this format right here, where it's these come with me videos, it's the day in the life videos. Right. They're so good at that because that's what they're accustomed to seeing on social media. And so a good example here is with our YouTube channel. For the longest time, I think, we were doing a fine job, but it was the videos that we as the institution were producing, and that's what made up our YouTube content. We made the shift about a year ago for our YouTube shorts specifically. We said, hey, students, and we have a group of interns, and, they have their connections with their friends. We said, you guys are the target audience here. You guys are the ones who know how to do these vertical videos way better than we do. What should we be doing on there? And so they've been producing these awesome day in the life videos for us. Yep. They've been going into classrooms in different research settings and letting the viewers see what's happening in our research labs. And our channel has exploded lately, and it's all because we've turned it over to the students to use this tool, again, that's right here in their pocket every single day, and they're producing this content for us, and it is just done wonders for us. And so, yeah, let's get past that misconception that we have to do $40,000, $50,000, videos all the time, because we can all all do it no matter what our budget is, because we've got the tool right in our pocket to be able to do it.
Yeah, I love that. And honestly, I think that a lot of students are suspicious when it's a really highly produced video.
Amen.
I think that's great for your donors. It's great for Facebook. It's great for other audiences maybe. But if you're going after student video, vertical, hold the little mic up. I mean, clip it onto your ear or whatever they do. I mean, there's a thing that they like to see because that says authenticity to them. And I think that's really important that I love everything you just unloaded there. Cause this is something I always say, and I want to ask you because you could probably tell me if it's true or not. I often tell people that, look, what you're carrying around in your pocket right now is better quality than what we had 20 years ago. So maybe when you were in school, I'm guessing that the 4K I can get on this, you weren't able to do that with even the professional quality gear.
Yeah, I mean, what was it back then? Not even 720, right? Like, so 4K, yeah. And even, some of the equipment, honestly, that we have, at our disposal at the university doesn't even shoot in 4K. Once it's 5-6 years old, I mean, the phones that are being produced these days are shooting better quality anyways. But to your point, Bart, I think that Gen Z, Gen Alpha, they're so accustomed to being advertised. They call our bluff. And so if things look too promotional for them, they scroll right past it. And so what they stop and they look for, in my opinion, and I'm sure data, will help us prove this, is that if it's authentic storytelling, if it's peer-to-peer connection, and it doesn't look like it's a scripted piece, that's what's going to catch their attention, because I think they're tired of being advertised to left and right.
Vince, if you could also let our listeners know, in your opinion, how can universities build a sustainable video content pipeline rather than just relying on one-off projects?
Yeah, I think the one-off projects are always going to happen, and we will always tackle those as they come up, right? I think this is where planning is key. And so one of the examples that I gave earlier was that 2-day video shoot that we did to really, feed the beast for our campaign this year. So we planned ahead for that, and we knew that the people we were going to interview and put on camera were specific people for a reason, right? We wanted to tout our new college, and we wanted to tout our research and our number one medical school. And so the people that we chose fit into those priority areas that we as a university are focusing on right now. But we also did that strategically because we knew that we're going to talk about this type of, content throughout this entire year. So we planned ahead. We dedicated 2 days to these video shoots, and we got all the content that we needed. Now, of course, we're going to add more to this along the way, but this fed the beast for this entire year coming up because, like I mentioned, we're going to break that down into not only our TV commercial and our extended cut, but 4 feature videos and all of these 15-second nuggets that will drop throughout the year. And that was because we planned ahead and, we put a strategic approach to it, and we knew exactly what we were looking for so that we could have that multi-channel content be coming out throughout the entire year. So I think, to sum that up, it's all about planning ahead. It's all about getting ahead of this rather than sitting back and waiting for projects to come to us. There is downtime throughout our year. I know it's hard to believe sometimes, but when those opportunities come up, let's get out there and shoot some video and shoot some interviews so that we have that content at our disposal throughout the year.
Great. Well, I'm gonna shift it up a little bit, and this isn't on our script, so forgive me if
here we go.
If I'm throwing it. But a lot of people ask me about AI. I'm really deep in AI, and I know that there's a lot of AI tools out there now with video, with Opus Clip, and some other things. Just talk a little bit as a somebody who's in this every day doing video. How are you starting to look at this? I mean, I know Premiere and all the other Adobe products and all the Pro Tools have these tools embedded in. How are you using that, and what are some tips that you might suggest?
Yeah, I think AI is something that we've, my team is really starting to look at, but we haven't really dove into it head first, to be perfectly honest, just yet. We're treading cautiously because I think that AI can be scary too. We've seen. And I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but we've seen partners throughout our institution that have, put AI created videos out there, and we've had to say, hold on, not yet, because in my mind, it's not there yet. You can tell that it's fake, right? Whether it's something on a shirt, that has a misspelling on it, or, there's just something that doesn't seem right about how somebody's mouth is moving. So I'll start there in saying that, we've treaded cautiously, and I would certainly recommend that folks do that, because again, I think that it could be dangerous if we go too far into AI, because I think the end user can still oftentimes tell that it's not quite real yet. Now we're using tools along the way that really, I think, helps in the planning stages of our videos and of our marketing campaigns in general. I think a great example of this was when we were planning out our current campaign last year, when we were starting to look at what are we going to do for this next campaign. We were using several AI tools to really do some research and come up with some concepts that we then, refined with our human brain power. So we started with AI and said, give us some concepts that you recommend. And then we, through our human brains, broke those down and refined them and then presented those to leadership. But we really haven't gone far in yet with AI when it comes to editing or with, any video creation, just because I personally just don't feel that it's there, quite there yet to where it can be fully trusted.
Well, I like that, and I'm glad that you kind of described it that way. You and I share a similar belief in that. I mean, I think there's plenty going on right now that we can be playing with and figuring out what we grab, what we throw away. We're in a Wild West time right now, but I think that the thing I like about what you said is that, hey, we're using it. We start with a human idea, we're using AI to get there, and we're ending with human. That's what I've been teaching a lot of people to do. But I think it also is important that we have to recognize the fact that it's not an all or nothing. We can't look at AI as like, well, it's just fake, I'm not going to use it ever. That's a dangerous place to be. And so I think the fact that you're kind of navigating those waters and saying it's not there yet, we're figuring this out, we're doing that. Because at the end of the day, students are going to be able to tell authenticity. And authenticity, as we go into more deep fakes and fake videos online, which there's already enough of them online, people are the trust level is going to go way down digitally. And so we've got to be able to be an authentic group that can be trusted in the way that we present our video work. So that's great. I appreciate you kind of letting me go off script there for a minute, Vince.
Of course, yeah.
Well, when you answered his question, you naturally led into our more scripted topic that we're going to talk about, and building a content engine that scales. And I think you referred to that as you described going to AI for your concepts. But would like to ask you specifically, what advice would you give institutions trying to balance creative storytelling with data-driven marketing ideas?
To me, those two things really should go hand in hand. And I'm not trying to be cliche, but I think that, I've met marketers along the way who are, really strategic and they live in spreadsheets, right? I've met marketers along the way who are on the complete opposite side, and they're solely on the creative. But I think that the two have to be married together, right? Because if you have a great marketing campaign concept and it's void of storytelling, I have to say, I don't know if it's going to be very successful, because if again, I keep saying this, but I think higher ed sometimes gets stuck in this sea of sameness. We copy and steal everything from every other institution, right? And the only way that we can stand out is to focus on our differentiators and focus on our people, because we know that just by nature, people in and of themselves are unique and they're different. And so when we're showing the people that make up our institution, that helps us stand out. So to more directly answer your question, Troy, I just think that you can't have one without the other. You can't have a strategy without a good storytelling piece of it, right? You can, of course you can, but I just don't think it's going to land the way that you think that it might, because we have to make sure that we're focusing on the stories that make up the campaign, and those stories, in my mind, should always center around our people. It's really what differentiates us. It really what will make us stand out as our institutions. Again, we can't, in my mind, go out there and just keep patting ourselves on the back and saying we're great. Our people have to be who says that for us.
Yeah. So Vince, as we look ahead down the path of the next 3-5 years, which I think is dangerous at this time, and just because who knows what's going to happen, what do you think? Where do you think video and storytelling are going to evolve to? I mean, I kind of gave you a little bit of my suspicion that as things get more fake, people are going to want more real. But what are you thinking? What drives your thoughts on that?
No, I agree with you, Bart. When it comes to AI, I think that's the hot topic right now. I think everybody, is eager to see what AI is going to do. And, I think unfortunately, people have lost jobs over AI. But just to give you a real world example here. So we launched our, it's the Bellini College of Artificial Intelligence, Cybersecurity and Computing at USF this past year. It's one of the first in the nation that combines those three disciplines. It is the first in the nation that combines those three disciplines together, with a historic gift by Arnie Bellini here. As we've been shooting videos and doing marketing, to help boost that college, I've talked to many faculty members, and one of the faculty members told me, he said, Vince, everything ebbs and flows. So when it comes to AI, it's the hot topic right now, and it's, I guess, ebbing right now, right? Everybody is kind of overreacting and laying off employees, but who trains the AI systems to know what to say, right? And to know what to do? It's people. And so his projection is that, these people that are going to be laid off are going to be hired back because they are the fact checkers and they're the ones who need to actually train the AI systems. So I think to your question earlier about, AI in video, that's kind of where we're at right now, where I think a lot of people, just my opinion, are potentially overreacting and they're going all in on AI. But at the end of the day, that human to human connection is, in my mind, again, what makes videos stand out, because in video, you can see emotions, right? You can hear people's emotions and see people's emotions. And so if we start to just rely and put all of our eggs in the AI basket, we're missing that human connection. I just think there's so much content out there, and it's like, how do you digest all of this? There's just so much being thrown at you all day, every day. And so where I'm focused is making sure that, for the university that I represent, that my team and I are really continuing to focus on the differentiators, really continuing to focus on what makes us stand out and what truly makes us unique versus all of the competition out there in this super crowded marketplace. So I know this is the topic of the chat, but I think continuing to go all in with video and short format, quick hitting pieces is really the path that we'll continue to take. Do you guys agree?
I agree. Yes, I do. I think that, yes, we're definitely in that role where authenticity is going to be, it's going to be the currency going forward. Authentic community, honestly, I've been telling a lot of people that in the next 5 to 10 years, I think that authentic community is going to be the number one selling point for most colleges, because commodity knowledge is going to be a commodity, and I hate to say that, and I don't mean to any disrespect to the academy, but the community and the authenticity and the coaching and mentoring that people are going to get from a college and university to prepare them for life and for their outcomes of their work are going to be seen as more valuable than maybe what we've seen in the last 25, 50 years, where the academy was more valuable in some ways. And again, I'm not trying to discount anything, but that's why I think the video and being able to communicate that and be able to capture that authenticity is going to be one of the keys going forward.
Love that. Yeah.
Vince, you did an excellent job of making your point and even put an exclamation mark at the end of it. But for the enrollment and marketing leaders that are listening today that aren't where you are, what would be one move or one step that they could take rather quickly to move their organization towards a more video-first marketing strategy?
I think focusing on the quick wins, number one. I think, again, going back to what we talked about, first, you have to plan for this, right? I mean, because again, if you're just relying on these one-off projects to come, then you're never going to get ahead. I think planning, investing in a strategy, and again, I don't think you need to invest budgetarily into fancy equipment, because we have what we need right in our pockets to be able to do this. I think this is probably one of the biggest ones for me, is tapping into our student talent to be able to do this for us. Again, I'm totally aware that not everybody has the skill set to be able to shoot and edit videos, right? And that's totally fine. And Bart, you talked about some folks, are a little bit shy, and maybe they're not the greatest communicators in person, or they get shy in front of a camera. But our students, if we tap into them, there are whether you're a small college or a large university, there are so many amazing students that are just right in our backyard every single day. Yeah. So I think, again, getting out of your chairs, going and finding those people to help you do your jobs better, because they know how to shoot these videos. They know how to do storytelling in a format that their peers are looking for. Prospective students are constantly looking for what is life like at X university or X college. And the best people to show that off are the people who are living it every single day. And so we don't need to think of video anymore as this large scale production. We just need to find the people who can help us do it in a way that their peers are looking for. And so that's, I think, a big piece of advice right there is, get out of your comfort zone as much as you can. But again, like the reason right there. They're right on your campus every single day. Tap into those students because they're amazing, and they'll surprise you. I think as we get older, we probably think, kids aren't super outgoing anymore, or they're lazy or whatever it is. They're not. They're really not. They're just different than us, and that's okay. They operate differently, and so giving them a chance to be part of the efforts that we're doing, you'll be surprised at some of the work that they do. I mean, I'll be the first to raise my hand and say I've been just like awestruck by some of the pieces that they've done for us on our YouTube channel and on our social channels. They do amazing work. I think just giving them that chance, really is beneficial for all of us.
Vince, thank you so much for bringing that point home. And everyone, we've been talking to Vince Slomsky, Assistant Vice President of Marketing and Brand at the University of South Florida. And Vince, if anyone listening would either like to reach out to you or maybe follow some of the work that you do at the University of South Florida, what would be the best way for them to do so?
I'm a big LinkedIn user, so please follow me on LinkedIn. Please, I love peer-to-peer connection. I love networking. Please reach out to me on there. So linkedin.com, /IN/Vince Slomsky, I think is the format. But just look me up on LinkedIn. It's Vince Slomsky, Slomsky. Shoot me a message. I love chatting with other industry connections, and would love to hear some of the work that our peers are out there doing. I love following you guys. I love following all the other people that are working in our industry, because I think that we get inspiration from each other, and so would really welcome that. And this has been fun, guys. I really appreciate you having me on here.
Thank you very much. Bart, what are your closing comments or your closing message that you would like to offer?
Well, I really like a lot of what Vince talked about, and I really like the fact that he talked about everything that it's reachable. This is on a bottom shelf, people. I mean, if you've got a phone and you've got the will, you can do some amazing things. And I love the fact that he talked about the power of YouTube. I mean, we talked at the beginning about, hey, most of the statistics he's seeing is it's on a television. People are using that as an app. They're watching it on their TVs. It is the second the second biggest search engine. It's the second biggest social media network. If you do not have a really good YouTube strategy, you have no excuse right now. You've got a phone, you've got some time, you've got an ability. You need to be doing this, and you need to be getting into that. And when you get it on YouTube, go ahead and put it in shorts and do vertical videos. And then you've got it in shorts, go ahead and put it in TikTok and Instagram. And now all of a sudden you've got a whole social media strategy going. But I think overall, I just want to encourage people to not get overwhelmed with the title video, because I think it's got that luggage that some of us are carrying around, the baggage maybe that we're carrying around from what we knew. And that goes back to my quote that I love from Alvin Toffler that said, in our time today, the people that are going to be the best are the ones that can learn something, unlearn something, and relearn something. And we've got to do that with video. And so I think that that's a really good thing. And Vince, you did such a great job today. Thank you so much, and come back anytime.
Thank you, Bart. Thank you, Troy. This has been a lot of fun. Appreciate you guys.
Good.
Wonderful. Officially, we want to thank all of our listeners for joining another episode of The Higher Ed Marketer. If you found this conversation helpful, please share it with a colleague and follow us on LinkedIn at The Higher Ed Marketer. The podcast is brought to you by Kaler Solutions, your trusted partner in higher ed branding, enrollment strategy, and mission fit marketing. We will see you next week with another great episode.
The Higher Ed Marketer podcast is proud to be a part of the Higher Ed Marketer Podcast Network. Discover even more conversations, resources, and tools to help you grow your institution at thehigheredmarketer.com, your go-to community for all things higher ed marketing and leadership.